Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're tackling a really fascinating topic. You provided a great intro text comparing how our brains work to the world of AI.
It is fascinating
Yeah.
how these two fields, developmental neurobiology and AI, are grappling with similar questions about information, but from completely different angles.
Yeah. It's like we're trying to figure out the blueprint of a brain. But where's the blueprint even stored? Is it all in our genes?
Well, that's where things get interesting. The intro text argues that genetic code, it isn't a detailed blueprint like you'd have for building a skyscraper.
Okay.
Instead, it's more like an algorithm, a set of instructions for the brain's step-by-step development.
Okay, so instead of a blueprint, we've got an algorithm.
Right.
But isn't that just semantics?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Think of it like navigating a city that's still under construction.
Okay.
The intro text uses that analogy, and it's a good one. Streets are added, removed, modified, all while the brain is trying to wire itself up. This process is called algorithmic growth. And it means you can't just look at the genes and predict the final brain structure.
Wow. So it's much more dynamic than I initially thought.
Yeah.
But hold on, biology is messy, right?
Sure.
There's always randomness noise involved. Doesn't that mess up the algorithm?
That's what's so remarkable. The intro text emphasizes that randomness and noise, they aren't just unavoidable glitches, they're crucial features of brain development.
Wait, so you're telling me noise is a good thing
Yes.
for brain development? That's counterintuitive.
It might seem that way.
Yeah.
But think of it this way. Neurons initially make connections almost indiscriminately. It creates this vast pool of possibilities, like brainstorming, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Okay.
And then through a process of selection and refinement, the weaker or less useful connections are pruned away, leaving behind a more efficient and robust network.
So it's like starting with 1,000 rough drafts.
Yeah.
And then evolution steps in as the editor, picking the best sentences to create the final masterpiece.
That's a great analogy. This process allows for incredible flexibility and adaptability. That's how brains recover from injury and adapt to new situations. And this highlights a key difference between biological brains and ANNs.
So ANNs are what we use to mimic brains in AI, right?
Right.
But the way they learn, it's fundamentally different from how our brains develop.
Exactly. ANNs are typically pre-designed and then trained on massive data sets. They don't have that inherent capacity for algorithmic growth and adaptation that we see in biological brains.
That makes you wonder, if we could incorporate this algorithmic growth into AI, could we create systems that are more flexible, more robust, maybe even more intelligent?
It's a fascinating question and one that researchers are actively exploring.
Mm-hmm.
The intro text even mentions this Rule 110 cellular automaton.
Rule 110.
Yeah, as an example of how a very simple rule, when applied iteratively, can generate incredible complexity.
Oh, tell me more about that. This sounds intriguing.
It's a mathematical model that shows how complex patterns can emerge from simple instructions. Imagine a single row of cells, each either black or white.
Oh.
And a simple rule dictates how the color of each cell changes based on the colors of its neighbors.
I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
So what's so special about Rule 110?
What's fascinating is that despite its simplicity, Rule 110 can generate any conceivable computation. It's a powerful example of how a limited set of instructions applied repeatedly can lead to incredible complexity.
Wow.
Much like a limited set of genes can lead to the development of our incredibly complex brains.
That's mind-blowing. So you're saying that maybe AI doesn't need massive data sets to learn. Maybe we could unlock greater AI capabilities by using simple rules coupled with learning algorithms that allow the system to essentially grow its own intelligence.
That's a thought-provoking possibility. It suggests that maybe we've been approaching AI development too rigidly, focusing on pre-designed networks instead of exploring the potential of algorithmic growth.
This has given me a whole new perspective on the information problem.
Yeah.
But we've been so focused on the algorithm itself, we haven't even talked about the information it's acting on. Where does that information actually come from?
That's a great point. While genes provide the instructions, the environment plays a crucial role in shaping brain development.
Okay.
Think of genes as the recipe, but the environment provides the ingredients and the cooking conditions.
So we've got this intricate dance between genes and environment shaping the brain through this algorithmic process. But how does evolution fit into all of this? We've got this algorithm running, creating this intricate brain structure. But it's not static, right? Evolution is playing its part too. How does that shape the information flow?
Evolution is like the ultimate tinkerer. It takes advantage of this randomness we talked about earlier. When a mutation happens in the genes, it can subtly tweak the algorithm, leading to a slightly different brain structure.
So it's not that there's a single gene for intelligence or for any complex behavior, right?
Exactly. It's more about how these small genetic changes can ripple through this complex developmental process, leading to remarkable adaptations over generations.
So if that change happens to be beneficial, like helping a butterfly navigate or making a brain slightly more efficient, then evolution favors it and that change gets passed down. It's amazing to think about how much of who we are is shaped by this long evolutionary history.
It really is. And it makes you wonder if we can better understand how evolution has shaped the information flow in biological brains. Could we apply those principles to create more adaptable and robust AI?
That's a question I'm definitely going to be pondering. But before we get too carried away with AI, let's dive deeper into the biological side of things. We've talked about genes and evolution, but what about the actual mechanisms at play during brain development? How do these individual neurons know where to go and who to connect with?
That's where things get really intricate, and we'll delve into that in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore the molecular mechanisms that orchestrate this complex dance of brain development and how these tiny players ultimately shape who we are.
I'm already hooked. Can't wait to unpack that in part 2.
Welcome back. Last time we talked about how the instructions for building a brain are more like an algorithm than a blueprint shaped by both genes and the environment.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about all the factors that go into wiring up this complex organ inside our heads. It's like a city under construction, constantly growing and adapting. But we left off talking about how those individual neurons actually find their way and make the right connections.
Right, so let's zoom in and look at the molecular mechanisms that guide this process.
Mm.
One key concept is chemoaffinity.
Okay, chemoaffinity. Break that down for me. What does it mean?
Think of neurons like tiny magnets attracted to specific chemical signals released by other neurons. This helps them navigate through the developing brain and make the right connections. It's like a chemical GPS system guiding each neuron to its destination.
So it's like a chemical love story, neurons searching for their perfect match based on these chemical signals.
It's a beautiful analogy. But it's not just about attraction. There are also repulsive signals that help neurons avoid making the wrong connections.
Ah, so it's more like a complex dance with neurons being attracted and repelled, finding their way through this intricate chemical landscape. It's remarkable how these tiny molecules can orchestrate such a precise and complex process.
Absolutely. And this is all happening at an incredible scale, with billions of neurons making trillions of connections.
Wow.
But if neurons are so driven to connect, wouldn't that just lead to chaos? How do we end up with organized brain circuits and not just a tangled mess of neurons?
That's a good question. It does seem counterintuitive. How can you have order emerge from what sounds like a very chaotic process?
That's where the concept of synaptic specificity comes in. While neurons are eager to make connections, they also have mechanisms to ensure they connect with the right partners. The intro text highlights a fascinating paradox. Synaptic specificity is crucial for brain function. Yet individual neurons are quite promiscuous in their connections. They'll happily connect with any neuron they can find, even themselves.
Wait, neurons connecting with themselves? That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But it turns out this initial promiscuity is actually a good thing. It creates a vast pool of potential connections that can then be refined through experience and activity.
Okay, so it's like starting with a rough draft and then editing it down to the essential information, just like we talked about with algorithmic growth. It seems like refinement is a key theme in brain development. But how does that refinement actually happen?
Think of it like a use it or lose it system. The connections that are used more frequently are strengthened, while those that are less active are weakened and eventually pruned away. This process, called synaptic pruning, is essential for learning and memory. It helps shape our brains based on our experiences.
So our brains are constantly rewiring themselves based on what we learn and experience. That's fascinating. It means our brains are much more dynamic than we often realize. But it's not just about individual neurons, right? It's about how they work together in circuit.
Precisely. These individual connections form the building blocks of larger circuits, which then give rise to even more complex functions. It's like how individual transistors combine to create powerful microprocessors, or how individual musical notes create a symphony.
Okay, so we've gone from genes to molecules to neurons to circuits. It's incredible to see how all these different levels of organization work together to create the amazing complexity of the brain. It makes you wonder, could we apply these principles to AI? Could we build AI systems that grow and develop in a similar way?
That's a question that's generating a lot of excitement in the field of AI research. Imagine AI systems that don't just learn from static data sets, but that actually grow and adapt their own neural networks based on experience, just like our brains do.
That would be a game changer AI that can truly learn and evolve on its own, constantly adapting to new information and situations.
Exactly. Such systems could be more flexible, more robust, and maybe even more creative than anything we've seen before. They could learn to solve problems in ways that we haven't even thought of yet.
This is making me think about the limits of our current approaches to AI. If AI systems don't grow like a brain, are we fundamentally limiting their potential?
That's a very insightful question. It's certainly worth exploring whether current AI approaches, which rely heavily on pre-designed networks and massive datasets, are missing out on some crucial aspects of intelligence that we see in biological systems.
This deep dive is really challenging my assumptions about intelligence, both biological and artificial. It's clear that the information problem is much more complex than I initially realized.
It certainly is. And while we've made significant strides in understanding how information is encoded and used in both biological and artificial systems, we're still just scratching the surface. There's so much more to discover, and the insights we gain could have profound implications for our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
I'm definitely feeling a sense of awe and wonder about the incredible complexity and beauty of the brain. But let's not forget about the artificial side of the equation. We've talked about the potential of AI to learn and grow like biological brains, but what about the practical implications? How could these insights actually be applied to build better AI systems?
That's a great question, and one we'll delve into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore the current state of AI research and discuss some of the exciting new approaches that are being developed, inspired by our growing understanding of the information problem in biological systems.
Sounds fascinating. I can't wait to hear more about those new approaches and what they might mean for the future of AI. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been exploring how biological brains develop through this amazing process of algorithmic growth, and how randomness and refinement are key features, not bugs. It's amazing.
It is. And as we've been discussing, those insights from biology are starting to impact the field of AI.
In the last part, we were talking about some of the potential implications for AI development. So let's dive into that. What are some ways that these insights from biology are being used to build better AI?
One exciting area is developing AI that can grow and adapt their own neural networks instead of using pre-designed structures.
Yeah.
This is called neuroevolution, or evolutionary algorithms.
Neuroevolution. So we're applying the principles of evolution to AI development.
Yes. Instead of manually designing AI, researchers are developing algorithms that allow these systems to evolve and optimize themselves, just like biological organisms.
So survival of the fittest, but for algorithms. The AI systems best at solving a problem get to reproduce and pass on their digital genes.
Exactly. And just like in biological evolution, random mutations and variations are introduced, which can lead to unexpected and potentially beneficial changes.
So this is making me rethink what it means for AI to learn. It's not just processing data, it's about growth, adaptation, and even serendipity.
Exactly. It's about moving away from rigid pre-programmed systems and towards AI that can explore, experiment, and discover new solutions.
This is exciting, but also raises questions. If we're creating AI that evolves and learns in unpredictable ways, how do we ensure they align with human values? How do we stop them from going rogue?
That's crucial, and one that researchers and ethicists are working on. One approach is to incorporate safety mechanisms or ethical guidelines into the algorithms.
So we're building ethics into the AI's DNA.
In a way, yes. By embedding certain values and constraints, we can help steer AI development in a direction that's beneficial to humanity. Of course, this is complex since our own understanding of ethics is always evolving.
This deep dive has raised more questions than it's answered, but that's a good thing. It's opened my eyes to a whole new world of possibilities.
I agree. This journey into the information problem has been fascinating. The key takeaway is that we're just beginning to understand intelligence both in ourselves and the machines we create.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is an ongoing adventure.
Absolutely. And as we delve deeper into the mysteries of the brain and the potential of AI, I think we'll uncover even more fascinating insights.
Well, I can't wait to see where this journey takes us. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. I hope it's been as fascinating for you as it has been for me.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, there's always more to learn, more to explore when it comes to intelligence, both biological and artificial.
On that note, we'll leave you with that thought.